Hey guys, in this video we are going to talk about 10 of the scariest enemies in the entire Resident Evil series. It should be noted that boss fights and mini-boss fights are not included in this list, and we only mention normal enemies in this list. So don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you don't have it. Let's go to the video. Number 10, Ganado. Resident Evil 4. Ganados were first introduced in Resident Evil 4. Unlike the zombies of the previous versions, these creatures were much faster and smarter. They could talk and even call other Ganadoharm to make your job much more difficult. The Ganados also used different weapons, for example axes, shovels and knives. Even the further you went, these Ganados used dynamite and even rocket launchers, which the zombies did not have any of these capabilities. Maybe one or two of the Ganados are very scary and killing them is not a difficult task, but if a group of them attack you, your job will be much more difficult, and even more difficult if Chainsaw Man is added to them. Ganados, unlike zombies who were turned into zombies by a virus, were infected with an ancient parasite called Las Plagas, which were controlled by their leader. Number 9, Hunters. Resident Evil series. The Hunters are a group of human-animal hybrids genetically engineered as bioorganic weapons. Hunter species are created by splicing reptilian DNA into a fertilized human embryo with T-virus acid, with the exception of Hunter Gamma where the process is reversed and human DNA is spliced into the genome of the fertilized amphibian spawn. Hunters are considered one of Umbrella's most successful products, the oldest of which is the Hunter Alpha. Following the fall of Umbrella, other bioweapon developers used this research information to create new species of Hunter. We first encounter these creatures in Resident Evil 1 at the Spencer Mansion played by Jill and Chris Redfield. Number 8, Soldat. Resident Evil Village. The Soldats were mutant humans created from infection with the Kato parasite and mechanical alterations. Their name is derived from the German word Soldat, meaning soldier. When Karl Heisenberg got his factory, he started experimenting on human corpses for mechanical mutations. Using lichens, Heisenberg tested the combat capabilities of his soldiers and made modifications to them to achieve his desired performance. Soldats are mutant humans whose hearts have been replaced by a Kato parasite. Their muscles are stimulated with electricity, which reduces their intelligence and instinct to kill and destroy. Their skulls are attached to a cap to stabilize their neural activity. Unlike other Kaiju-induced mutants, Soldats do not calcify when they die, but instead explode due to their reactor. Number 7, Cerberus. Resident Evil series. In fact, Cerberus is the name of one of the legendary creatures in ancient Greek mythology. Cerberus is a three-headed dog with a snake instead of a tail, who is the guardian of the world of the dead. Cerberus were dogs created and named by Umbrella researchers through the T-virus. After contamination, the dog's skin became so inflamed that their flesh and bones were exposed. These zombie dogs were present in most versions of Resident Evil, and after zombies, they are known as one of the most symbolic enemies of Resident Evil. These dogs are very fast and agile, and it is very difficult to kill them, and you have to shoot them carefully because they are always moving fast. Number 6, Molded. Resident Evil 7. Molded are the enemies in Resident Evil 7. They are not regenerated corpses, but any corpses that are intoxicated by the mold will provide the fuel necessary to build the molded strands. Also, if there are large amounts of this material in the environment, this is enough to produce a molded. They are tall, human-like creatures whose mutated bodies are highly flexible and covered in black fungus. Beneath their flesh, although very intangible, the bone structure and red organs can still be seen. A large mouth containing wedge-shaped teeth can be seen on their head, which almost covers most of their head. They also have claws on both hands that can cut and even infect their prey. Number 5, Ivy. Resident Evil 2. Ivy, also known as Ivy Zombies, was a random mutation created by Plant 43 by infecting humans with the plant's buds. At the time of the destruction of Raccoon City, Umbrella's underground laboratory, Nest, was under the commotion of William Birkin and the subsequent outbreak of the T-virus. When all activities of this laboratory were suspended, Umbrella researchers noticed a change in the behavior of Plant 43 due to lack of proper maintenance. This caused this plant to kill many of the group present there with a hostile behavior. During the attack on the researchers, Plant 43 also planted buds in them, which grew in their bodies and turned green. In this way, they became creatures that could only suffer permanent death by flames. Finally, all these creatures were destroyed by the activation of the Nest self-destruction system. Number 4. Crimson Head Resident Evil Remake. Crimson Heads were introduced in Resident Evil Remake. These different zombies did not exist in the original version of Resident Evil, and were actually added to the game in the remake version. Crimson Heads were actually corpses of zombies that came back to life, but this time much stronger and faster, so that it was much harder to kill them even than normal zombies. In Resident Evil Remake, a new mechanism was added that you could burn zombies after killing them so that they don't turn into Crimson Heads. If you don't burn them or even the Crimson Heads after killing the zombies, they will turn into stronger Crimson Heads and kill the zombies around them, and they will also turn into Crimson Heads. This mechanic and the corpses of Crimson Head zombies that were added in the remake of the first version were so good and challenging that they increased the value of the game experience. Number 3. Revenant Resident Evil Revelations 2. The Revenant is made from various pieces of multiple human corpses that have been haphazardly stitched or nailed together, creating a grotesque, doll-like figure. The creature is given life by being infused with the Ouroboros virus, which combines with the T-Phobos virus already within the test subject's body and constructs new ligaments and circulatory pathways between each of the Revenant's mismatched parts, allowing the creature to move, albeit inelegantly. The Revenant is sustained by a core, a glowing orange pustule that is common among all known Ouroboros mutations. The core's location is different for each Revenant, but it is not visible until the body part it infests receives damage. Once the core is exposed, it takes minimal firepower to destroy it. The Revenant will die immediately once the core is destroyed, and the body will then disintegrate. Revenants will stagger about in a zombie-like fashion and will relentlessly pursue and attack any creature that enters their field of awareness. It is not exactly clear how they track prey, whether it be sight, smell, or hearing, as their sensory organs are likely mutilated or decayed to the point of non-functionality. Regardless of how, the Revenant will approach prey either by clumsily walking or crawling, ignoring any hazards in the way. It will then attempt to beat its prey to death with its arms or feed upon them with its misshapen mouth, or mouths. Number 2. Licker Resident Evil Series. These creatures were first introduced to us in Resident Evil 2. These creatures have completely skinless bodies and their muscles are completely visible. Also, their brains have become much larger due to the experiments that have been performed on them, which has made them blind and lose their sight. But even though they are blind, their hearing is very strong and they attack you as soon as you make a noise. They also have long tongues and sharp claws that can walk on walls and ceilings like reptiles. These creatures are one of the most well-known and even scariest creatures in the second version of Resident Evil. Lickers are much harder and more difficult to kill than normal zombies. With the limited ammunition you have in Resident Evil 2, it is better to run away from these creatures than to kill them and run out of arrows. Number 1. Regenerator Resident Evil 4. One of the scariest and most stressful enemies in the entire Resident Evil game is related to the fourth version, that is, the Regenerator. Regenerators are the result of experiments by Sadler and his cult. Scary gray-skinned, tall, red-eyed creatures in the laboratory of the island department. After their body parts such as hands and feet are cut off or destroyed, these creatures rebuilded very quickly. The only way to kill them is to use a thermal camera and shoot the parasites inside their bodies. If you think that they will be killed after destroying the parasites inside their body, you are very wrong. After being destroyed, some of these regenerators turn into a stronger creature called Iron Maiden. Iron Maidens have razors all over their bodies, and even inside their bodies there are more parasites than regenerators. Thank you very much for being with me until the end of the video. In your opinion, what other enemy in the Resident Evil series is scary? Or what enemy were you most afraid of in which version of Resident Evil? If you liked the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.